Welcome to the auditory drill module. The second drill that you will see on your lesson plan template is the auditory drill. When delivering the auditory drill to a student or group, follow these steps. Teacher will first hold the student's deck of cards facing away from the student. It is important to be sure that the student cannot see what is written on the front or the back of the cards. The teacher will then say the sound represented by the letter or letters on the card. The student will repeat the sound aloud. The student will then write all of the ways that he or she knows to spell that sound while saying the letter names aloud. If you are working with a group or class, then you may want to have your auditory drill written out on paper in the order in which you will deliver it. Students in your group will write the letters on paper, and it will be important for you to have a way to compare your list with what they have written to check for errors. Writing out your auditory drill will also give you the opportunity to write out all of the multiple spellings you should be checking for and ensure that you do not forget or repeat any sounds. As previously stated, when the teacher says a sound that has multiple spellings, the student is expected to write all of the spellings that he or she has been taught. I'm going to provide you with an example of this, but it is important that you look at the suggested order and checklist for phonemes, rules, and patterns. Feel free to pause this video and locate that document prior to moving on to the example. If this is lesson number 6 in column 3, then the teacher is introducing CH in this lesson. During the auditory drill, there will be 4 phonemes that have multiple spellings at this point. When the teacher dictates a sound that has multiple spellings, the student will be expected to write all of the spellings for the given sound. As you can see in column number 1, both the S and Z sounds for S should be taught. Thus, at this stage, when the teacher dictates the Z sound, the student should write both Z and S on paper. Additionally, you can see that the C, K, and CK have already been taught up to this point. Thus, when the teacher dictates the K sound, the student will be expected to write all 3 spellings on paper. The long vowel sounds will eventually have several spellings. At this point, there are only 2 spellings for long A and 2 spellings for long E. However, as you move through the columns, you will introduce several phonogram cards that make these long vowel sounds. In the back of the Language Toolkit booklet, there are mnemonic sentences that may help your students to recall all of the multiple spellings for the long vowel sounds. Finally, it is important to note that once you have dictated a sound once during the auditory drill, you do not need to say it again. If you say the sound once and come to another card that makes the same sound, you can simply skip over it. If the student has difficulty with a given sound during the auditory drill, follow these steps. The student should first repeat the sound, exaggerating the sound and mouth placement. The teacher will then ask the student if he or she recalls the key word. If the student cannot recall the key word, then the teacher can say it aloud. If the student still does not recall the spelling, the teacher can then write the key word on paper, isolating the sound. Once this step has been done, the teacher has given the student the correct spelling. Thus, it is time to use IRS. The teacher has isolated the sound and should then ask the student to read a few words and spell a few words using that sound. The student will then write the letter or letters on paper 3 times while saying the sound aloud. The teacher will review the difficult phoneme during the blending drill and spelling portions of this lesson. And finally, the teacher will write this information down in the assessment portion of the lesson, making certain to include this phoneme during the next lesson's review time. If the student recalls the correct spelling after following one of the aforementioned steps, then there is no need to continue. Make note of the student's difficulty and continue the drill. This concludes the auditory drill presentation.